Clear, sir, clear.
Yes, sir. So I'm going to talk today on water, health, and environment on the occasion of World Water Day. So uh, just a moment, sir. Just moving the slide.
Sir, your voice is not audible.
Yes, sir, yes, sir. Just I will move the slides, sir. Now there is a problem in moving it. Just a moment. Okay, sir. I hope I can move like this, sir. Is it okay? Is it visible, sir? The slides, sir?
It should be full view, sir. The slides.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
So the today presentation is going to be on. I would like to put the acknowledgement first and water structure, and it's just one structure, and all of you may aware that the theme of the World Water Day in 2022. You also may be knowing that, and mostly I'm going to cover UN Water report, in which is published in 2015 to 16 and also 2019. That's a major part, and we have a few research publication based on water. And currently, we have a small research grant that is from Tamil Nadu Council for Science and Technology. So that is a we are going to do it. So as I said, acknowledgement I started putting in the very first beginning itself. Any talk, that is one of the reason which we met once, Dr. Kalam. I have shown in one of the publication which we published in 2011. So he, after seeing the abstract, immediately went to acknowledgement, and he has noticed what are the who are the people I am acknowledging. So acknowledgement is always important, I think, because we are taking someone's knowledge and I am acknowledging them, particularly with Jad Van Royen and his report. His video is wonderful. It's only a few minutes, and the World Water Day from UN report. I'm going to follow only on this. Yes. So I already mentioned that the 2022 is the groundwater making invisible and visible. So that is the theme of this World Water Day. So underneath of our feet, we have invisible water, and the structure of water, probably the in the during the if you studied in the basic chemistry, you know that it's a 104.5 degree angle between the two hydrogen, and oxygen is on the top. That's the way is there. So I don't know how many of you have studied biochemistry. If you have studied biochemistry in a Leninger, most of the biochemists and biologists and doctors, they study biochemistry. The first unit is the water. So there is a reason why the lineage is given importance, because the water, based on the water, the biochemical pathways are plays major role. The biochemical pathways decides our the type of diseases which we are going to get. That is more important. So I'm moving on that to the next slide. So I start with the UN Secretary General's message for this one. So you can see that it started with aquifers. So they're stored in the rocks and soil. Groundwater is the biggest source of liquid fresh water. So that is almost like 97%. If I'm right, I will see in the next few slides. And every year it keeps on increasing, almost like 1%. So almost 20% of the aquifer is over exploited. So that point which I would like to touch, and I'm going to that. I already mentioned that 90% of the water is a groundwater. So we have to keep it safe. And so based on the groundwater, food security is there, industrial growth is there, and economic prosperity. So nearby in our India, we have seen in a country there is a big economical problem, and industrial growth is not there because of various reasons. Water is also one of the reasons. So we need to preserve the groundwater. It is also, it carries the vital nutrients, and also there is a connection between the uh, uh, climate change and the groundwater. That is also there. Aquifer already mentioned that it could be the reason for anthropogenic, that you know that it's due to the man-made, or it could be natural also. There are some places like arsenic is already available in the soil, and fluoride is already available. We know in few places nearby Thanjavur, as well as in the Dharmaburi district. So we have to treat the water. Otherwise, you know that during the flight, I'm going to have a separate slide only for this one slide for the various inorganic chemicals, what they can do for a human being. In Tanjavur particularly, you know that it's calcium is there. So calcium is going to plays a major role in our stone formation in our internal organs. So that could be a major problem in the kidney as well as in the also uh, in I don't know exactly another place. So kidney, it's one of the biggest. I mean, it's a big problem for people living in Thanjavur. Otherwise, if they don't remove the calcium, it's going to be a problem. Okay. Water uses, I already mentioned that every year there is a 1% increase in the, we are going to take the water. So in 2019 report, if you see, leaving no one behind. That's a report. It's an interesting report. I have gone through that, and it was opportunity. I could able to spend few hours for this lecture and could be able to take the few important points. And I also learned a lot about this internation's importance because of the United Nations Sustainable Development. I think sixth goal. This is a sixth or seventh. I'm exactly I don't know. It is a sustainable SDG goals. Water is there. So there is it's a gender discrimination is also there. We are going to see that, and also rich and poor is also there. So if the rich is going to get the water and poor in the slum, if they're not going to get the water, that is also discrimination. Gender based, if there is a discrimination in the water, the particularly for a woman, girl child, they are forced to take water from the long distance, so they have to skip their education and so on. So it's also problem we are going to see in the UN report. So you can see that in Malawi, it's they're taking the water from the in one place. They have taken the photograph. It's a beautiful photograph from I've taken from the UN report. Okay, just I'm going to the next important point. So if you, I already mentioned that aspiration of people, it depends on the groundwater. That's one thing. In Tanjavur, most of the you must have been. I also living for except a few years in between. I was not there, like 10 years I was not there. So I'm almost living from the childhood. In our place where Allah Namal Nagar, I remember it was around 80 feet in 1980, 79, 80. Now we have taken a bore. It's almost like 200 to 300 feet. So you can see the groundwater level decreasing, and also we are over exploiting the water. So not only in that, in Africa also there is insufficient. There are people only that to thrive. It's not for it's not for the because they are over exploiting, and it's a major problem in this Africa. Again, in South Africa, recently 2 years or 3 years before, in Cape Town, you might have read there is a biggest shortage in the Cape Town. Okay. Again, of course, there are racial differences there, and rich and poor is there, and also gender bias is always there. The population growth and dietary change is also 8 times higher. We are keeping a dietary change. So if we are going to have a grow animal for a food, then it is going to take a water. I remember once I was there in 4 months in Australia. In Australian TV, they always put India and global warming, and they are worried because Australia is surrounded by a sea. So if there is even a small increase in the sea level, it's going to affect them. So they are worried, particularly population of cattle. Also, they are worried. So they're really worried about the cattle population. So this is because of the amount of carbon dioxide they are going to leave. So naturally, it's going to involve in global warming. So water is invisible, but we have to be visible. We make it visible, and everywhere we should protect. That's the point I would like to put it. I already mentioned some of them. Of course, sustainable development is always there. We have to make it. Growth is also important. Environment is also important. So we have to maintain both. So that is a point. And with that, I skip this slide. So you can see in most of the places is overreached. Already a UN secretary has mentioned 20% of the aquifer has been over exploited. So pollution is the next problem. So one of the slides I am going to show you. We had a collaboration with the Cambridge University in Canada 5-6 years before. They came and took samples, water samples and soil samples nearby in Thanjavur, and particularly they are interested with the sugarcane fields. So when they have a novel cartridge, it's a chromatography. Probably you know what is chromatography. Chromatography, chrome means in Russian, it's a Russian word. Chrome means color, and graphy means separation. So we can separate any molecules using a column chromatography. The separation will show you the tiniest particle. Even a small amount of the toxic chemical is there, we can find it and we can show. That is one of the reason. Probably you know that in Olympics, they all in the sports, they always store the blood as well as excreta from a human being for 10 years. Even if they not able to find a drug now, probably when they develop analytical tools later and they find it, they will take the medal from the sports person. So they keep developing because they may suppress using a drug or some other method, or they may not have facility or techniques to detect some drugs which is banned by the sports authority. So same way here, when we when shocking one which I cannot show the poster. Probably I will share it someone once I get it. I'm trying to find the poster. They have in aquifer in Thanjavur, they could able to find a trace amount of explosives. We don't know how is there in the explosive material in the aquifer in Thanjavur. It was really shocking, and they had only published as a poster in a conference in the US, and we had a really shock because of we could able to trace only because of the nano column. It's a column produced in a company in Canada. Sorry, is it my voice is clear and everything?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Your voice is very clear, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So pollution always it's a major problem, and also I don't know. We have also a small land, and many of you may have also lands. So we sometimes they use it. They think for their family they don't put the fertilizer or pesticide in excess, or there is no pesticide or fertilizer for their family, and for the selling it they put a lot. Yeah, so they think they are protecting their family, but it's not true, because you know that because of biomagnification process, it's a well-known one. Because of the overflow, the pesticide chemical definitely is going to be the plant is going to be the fish, then it's going to again to the cattle. Finally, as a human being, we are going to eat every plant, fish and cattle. So one, the whatever the chemicals stored by these organisms or fishes and aquatic fishes as well as cattle, we are going to take it one shot. So that is one of the reasons. Suddenly you might have seen our friends or family members, and suddenly they have a cancer or some other diseases. That is due to the because we throw a battery just like that, because it contains a lot of heavy metals. And when we even in universities, there is no provision like treating a chemical. Whereas in of course there is a law is there, and I don't know how many universities are there strictly following it. We should not throw a chemical into the any in a drainage. We have to take it out and we have to give it to the company, which they have to dispose it properly. If it's not followed, this chemical definitely goes into the aquifer. Particularly people working with the nano materials, it's quite dangerous. We cannot even it's very difficult to trace the nano materials in water. So it definitely goes everywhere and it goes to be accumulated in our organs, and definitely it is going to affect our life. So that is the most dangerous. That is why that now the education bodies, they started asking for the MOU, how you are disposing chemical and proofs, they are started asking. It's a good start, but we have to be very careful. So groundwater, I already mentioned about the gender bias. So the girl child is are forced to take water from long distance, not only in Africa, but it's also possible in India. And also we don't give water from to one place. Even I'm not talking about between the states, between the even the districts, they are not giving. Example, like a few years before, between Thanjavur district, which is a part of Patukotte, and Vedanam, they did not give. Patukotte did not give the water to Vedanam. Probably you know Vedanam whole region is a salt water. So when it's a we don't understand problem of the people who are in the down end of the river always, and particularly closer to the sea, they have salt water is there. You can see one of the images in the top from the UN photos I have taken from the report. They are over exploited, and you can see there is no water on the well. So it goes as well as it's a gender bias. I already mentioned that. So I'm going to see a report hereafter, only the graphs. You can see that flooding. So water is either way, it's a drought and it can be a flooding. So it both are there. So we are interested only on India. So I'm going to put on only an Indian point of view. So you can see that almost like India, 19 million people are affected because of the flooding between this period, 96 and 2000. You can see recently we had a few floods, and you can see always in the left side average of annually for the worldwide, that is a 35 million. So in China is more, of course, the land surface also more. So I'm going the next one. So drought again, it's just opposite. So without water is also not there. Excess is not there. It's a flood. Excess is there, flood, and it's not there, drought. So you can see 17.5 million is there. So again, India is also affected, that we are not properly utilizing this. That could be a various reasons, that we are not storing the water. There are not enough wells are there, and we are because we due to the some other reason we are closing the wells, and we are going on the only on depending on the bore wells. So these are the reason which you have a drought also. The next is global and regional drinking water coverage. So if again, once I could not take the only this India, so it's you can see in the uh, somewhere in the middle, East Asia and Southeast Asia. If from the right side, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth column is 94%, 94 number is there. You can see we have only basic level. If it's a dark blue is there, it's safely managed. So we are only we can go basic level we have. So you know that this point I would like to put the Singapore country, where probably you know that the only country when they got freedom they were crying. So after that they started they don't want to depend on Malaysia. So what they said, they started taking a uh, 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 water from a sea, and reverse osmosis. They remove the salt, and every I think are almost 7 to 9 times they reuse the water in Singapore. So it's very important. So they're very strict, and they want to be very independent. They don't want depend on the for water to the neighboring country Malaysia. So that is the way they are treating. And in probably if someone of you visited in Mumbai or by train, you can see when it passes through the slum, in the both side you can see the slum, and you can see the condition of the slum, and you can see the how much they suffer probably for even for water. Okay. Sanitation coverage, again, if you have to see that only we are interested, it's in the continent, so you have to see somewhere like East Asia is somewhere. Okay. From the left side, it's a third one. You can see the column. 55. It's again, it's a basic, safely managed. Yes, around 55, it's safely managed. So it's a global and regional sanitation cover in 2015 data from UN. Okay. Proportion of schools with the basic drinking water by a country. Again, you can see like almost like 50 to 70%. India is the yellow color. You can it's they have in schools they have a basic drinking water by it's a 2016 data, and where rest of the world are almost like they are better than us. You can see that 91 to 100%, and so on. They are doing very well. So population of urban living slums, that I already mentioned that slum conditions, of course, it's very good. It's decreasing. You can the trend is you can see that eastern and southern Eastern Asia. Earlier it was it's a 2017 report. You can see that it was 38 percentage, and it decreasing 28%. So it's a good trend, and it's a positive trend everywhere. And next one is there are we are talking about the water from resources only groundwater. Of course, that and the logo or the theme is this year is only on groundwater. It is also possible for the various other waters also there. Desalination is one point. Atmospheric moisture is there, and also like we can take from iceberg, and so by super tankers and so on. So these are the various other possibilities are there, and we are going to the important point, health problems. Already you know that from the school days we have studied nitrate is causes blue baby syndrome. Fluoride, I already mentioned that in some of the villages or even the towns, we have a fluoride content in our drinking water. It can break our teeth and our bones. It's a dangerous for us. Of course, heavy metals, I already mentioned, it could be anthropogenic as well as naturally. So if the heavy metals are there, it's highly toxic, and it can cause also cancer. And the toxic chemicals, there are many toxic chemicals available, particularly the industries or anyone, even individual houses. We don't really bother, and we throw chemicals on the ground. Definitely it is going to the environment. Finally, as a biomagnification process, I already mentioned, it's going to come to the human being. Calcium is one of the major problem in Thanjavur, where you can see calcium is going to have a calcination process. Using the calcination process, we are going to have a stones in our body, and it's quite dangerous. You know that it's 3 times more pain than delivery pain. So E. coli is one of the microorganism which is there in even in ice cream. I remember it was 20 years before, where the groundwaters and water was safe. Now it could be no. E. coli definitely it's not it's not a harm. Harm, it doesn't do any harm to our body, but it's indication. That means the water is contaminated with the drainage. That's an indication. That means the water is unsafe. So that is a whenever we get a water, we need to see if there is a growth. Is there? That means E. coli is there. The contamination is contaminated with the drainage. It's quite dangerous, because some of the time that drinking water pipe and drainage pipe, they are very closer, and the contamination possibilities are there. Or even the bores are there. The drainage is if they're not treated, it could also fall into the bore wells. So it's quite dangerous. So these are the one. Already mentioned that in the beginning, we have one of the, this is the one of the papers. This is not a paper, it's only a conference presentation. They found that it is important chemicals, particularly explosives, are available in trace amounts in the aquifers in Thanjavur in few places. So this is quite dangerous for us. So, and we should be very careful as a people living in Thanjavur. So the possibilities, if we are really serious about the water, groundwater, we have to keep testing the groundwater, and we should know whether there's a by mistake, if there is some chemicals are dumped in early days somewhere, and it's contaminating our aquifers. So that should be very important. Other somewhere it's any other problem, anthropogenic problem, or it's a natural problem, we should find it. Otherwise, it's quite dangerous for human being in Thanjavur. And I already mentioned that there's the last slide before I go to research publication. There's a percentage of adults use the internet. It's only 2016 data. After COVID-19 one, definitely it could be the different day, numbers, but India was around 22% in 2016. So now you can imagine, definitely it could be in somewhere more than 50 and closer to 100, could be somewhere that. So internet connection, definitely it is it gives a smartphone. It gives it's developed countries or people can access the data and information. It's also possible. Okay, I start with this research publication now. So we have some of one of our MTech uh, 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 environmental engineer. He has done a small project with that. So he has done a lab scale design and performed study of filter media. So he made, we always make a filters or anywhere work on a filtration with affordable cost. That's more important. So what he has taken, its region is a place probably you know that near Mariamman Koil, and so that drain is almost, you can see it's nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium is more. Then you can see that a lot of weeds will be there, and so that means you know that most of the Thanjavur wastewater, they are going to be there, and it contains a lot of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So it occupies the entire uh, uh, that lake, and it's going to reduce the water level, and also it's going to be contaminate the groundwater. So not only that, probably you know that microorganisms are very dangerous, where people did not take much, or even cleaning the hand is not a habit that I noticed, and it was really shocking after some years from abroad, and you come back and see, and that we don't follow here. After Corona, that at least we are following it. This is first thing. If we start having a cleaning habit our hand, then definitely it prevents a major percentage of health from for us, that we don't need to go to the doctor. our families also will be safe. So it's very important. You can see that one of our student who did a project, he took a coconut fiber and a coarse sand and ground support, then he made a filters. So you can see that generally we are interested to decrease that nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. You can see in coconut fiber it was like almost 10, and coarse sand it was 90% removal was there. And whereas that there are like even in the coconut sand, coarse sand and coconut fiber and gravel medium combination, it was also a good percentage was there. So we did different combination. This is just to give an example. So I don't want to make it as a research presentation. It was a small work and we published in the local journal. So and paddy husk was there we used. So our idea is to use the waste material, and we don't use generally food material that we supposed not to use. Food is we don't do anything with the food based material for treatment. So food is first for our survival. If there is a some for even producing uh, yeah, fuel, that should be like this. Okay. So then almost like I touched the point of water. Now in opposite direction, we also did a small little bit work with the Central Electrochemical Research in Karaikudi, super hydrophobic coatings. So in some place we don't want water. That there are many places like even it could be a car uh, wiper where we don't need really water, so we are cleaning. If there is a glass are coated with a super hydrophobic coatings, that means water contact angle more than 160-degree angle, that is called a super hydrophobic coating. So we have a shirt or fabrics. So even if there is a fall on the shirt, we can it will not absorb or even absorb. Both will not take place. So that is a super hydrophobic coatings. So for that we use multi-wall carbon nanotubes and so on. So next one is probably I would like to show you. We also one of the colleagues who's a research scholar as well as, and there is a colleague from VIT Chennai. They collaborated and they made a nano catalyst for treating acid blue dyes. So you can see that dyes are also major problem. This of course also dyes are banned, and these dyes can go into our body and it can make health problems. So in that case we can make a catalytic biodegradation using a sunlight, and we make it something like that. So this also there. We have a couple of papers on this, and this is a sono catalysis and various combination. Finally, conclusion, like preservation of groundwater is very important, and cost-effective water treatment is very important. Of course, we have a small project. We take from Tamil Nadu Council for Science and Technology. So it is a project which we want to develop for the villages or remote places where they don't have places where treatment system is not there, and or our armed personnel when they're traveling on the border, because they have to stay for a few days or a week without. So when they have a water somewhere in that, and they can take this filter and they pour the water and they can drink. That's the idea. So I hope almost we have come to the conclusion. So thank you very much for the opportunity. Hello, sir.
So it was a nice, wonderful presentation, sir. Actually, Food and Agriculture Organization சொன்னாங்க ஒரு கப்பு காஃபி 200 ml காஃபிக்கே வந்து 200 லிட்டர் வாட்டர் தேவைப்படுது அப்படின்னு சொன்னாங்க. அதாவது இன்டைரக்ட் இன்விசிபிள் வாட்டர், இன்விசிபிள் வாட்டர் இன்விசிபிள் இவங்கிற மாதிரி இதுல எல்லாத்துக்குமே. ஈவன் ஒரு பால் மாடு வந்து எனக்கு மாடு இதுதான் கறக்குதுன்னா மாட்டுக்கு தண்ணி வைக்கிறது மட்டும் தான் சொல்றாங்க, ஒரு 10 லிட்டர் தண்ணி நாளைக்கு தேவைப்படுது அப்படின்னா. அப்படி கிடையாது. ஆக்சுவலா அதுக்கு புல்லு வளர்க்குறது, அதுக்குமே தேவையான தண்ணி, அதுக்கு தீவனம் போடுறாங்க, அந்த தீவனம் உற்பத்தி பண்றதுக்கான தண்ணி, இப்படி பார்த்தா எக்கச்சக்கமான இன்விசிபிள் வாட்டர்ஸ் இருக்கு. ஸோ அதெல்லாம் நம்ம வந்து அதை கவனிச்சு அதை வந்து தேவைகளை வந்து ரெஸ்ட்ரிக்ட் பண்ணி யூஸ் பண்ணாதான் வந்து வாட்டர் ஸ்கேர்சிட்டி பார்த்தா 2050 பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஒரு எல்லா உலகமே வரும்னு சொல்றாங்க. எக்ஸப்ட் அதாவது கனடால வராது, மற்ற இடத்துல வராது. பட் ஆனால் இந்தியாவிலாம் வந்து 2050 ஒரு எல்லாருக்கும் ஒரு வாட்டர் ஸ்கேர்சிட்டி வரும் அப்படின்னு சொன்னாங்க. So it's very wonderful, nice talk, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any doubts, sir? யாராவது டவுட் கேட்கறதா சார்ட்ட கேட்கலாம். ஏதாவது ரைஸ் பண்றீங்களா மேடம்?
ஒன்றும் இல்லை சார், இட்ஸ் கிளியர்.
It's good, clear. I request secretary to give a vote of thanks.
Dear fellow engineers, good evening to all of you. Today is the apt title for the World Water Day, and yesterday I saw the group of secretaries WhatsApp group. So many calls from the different centers about the this type of webinars or in-person meetings about World Water Day, and many centers they have conducted this type of webinars or in-person talks for this particular commemorate this day. And today also many centers have posted their videos. Some of them posted their photos. Even some of centers have gone outside, higher side to go for the press release, newspaper cuttings. This so such a very big way. This Water Day was celebrated in many centers, and I'm very happy that the chairman has organized this webinar for our Thanjavur local center to mark this event. Really wonderful presentation by Dr. Kumaran Shunmugam also, and it was very informative, sir, and really to listening to you how much important about this water, and also you highlighted some of the points which relate to our local city, like in Nagar, how the water level has come down from 80 feet to 300 feet. Really, even I can also mention in near Nagar, previously we used to go for 200 feet, but there is no water now in 200 feet. It has gone down still bottom. So we have to depend on the overhead tank, which is in front of my house, more than 400 feet. So that is the status of water level in Thanjavur, and also the health benefits or health effects due to the poor quality of water, or maybe the non-maintenance of the quality of water. Really, it was very wonderful listening to you, sir. The members present here might be enjoyed your presentation, and hopefully in the future more lectures maybe we can talk, sir, and it will be very, very useful to our output center members, and as a whole it will be very, very fruitful. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And also I appreciate the members for their presence today. They spend their valuable time today along with the former chairperson, Dr. Sumal Madam, and then Kannan sir, Dean Sindamil Kannan sir, and then Tyagarajan, S.K. Swami sir, all for all of you, thank you very much. I hope maybe in the future still more members will be present. Maybe next week we are having a meeting in-person meeting, weekly, monthly meeting. So most probably I think Dr. Mahendran will present on topic in
29th
related to food processing. It will be very interesting. I invite all the members to participate again next week in person in our Rotary Hall. It will be a more wonderful day. Thank you very much for all your cooperation and participation.
Thank you very much.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Mr. Jayakumar, sir, and Venkatachalapati, sir.
sir. Welcome, sir.
Mr. Karupasamy.
Please, sir.
நான் கொஞ்சம் லேட்டா தான் ஜாயின் பண்ணேன். அவருடைய சார்னுடைய மிஸ்டர் குமரனுடைய லெக்சர் நல்லா இன்ஃபர்மேட்டிவா இருந்தது. இந்த ஈக்குவலி பிரசன்ஸ் வில் லீட் டு ஹெல்த் ப்ராப்ளம் டு தி ஹியூமன் எல்லாம் சொல்லிக்கிட்டு இருந்தார் தஞ்சாவூர் பெல்ட்ல. நல்லா யூஸ்ஃபுல்லான லெக்சர். நிறைய ஹி collected more information in global level and presented, but participation வந்து very less in the single digit level, sir. I have seen even he is from Periyar Maniamma University.